In this video, I'm going to show you how to have so much charisma that you'll be able to start your own sex cult. And fundamentally, this all comes down to what I call accessing the superpersonality. It comes down to accessing what are in fact actually certain supernatural powers, and it's about activating and becoming a conduit for what I call your personal daemon. I touched on this a little in my last video. The idea, according to ancient knowledge, is that every one of us has a daemon. Now, we tend to think of that word daemon to mean something exclusively negative, like a kind of foreign entity, a parasite which is separate to you and which latches onto you and does a bunch of bad things. But this is not what they meant in the ancient world, the pre-Christian world, even the pre-Socratic world, when they used this term daemon. A daemon could be good or bad. It was not inherently negative. It wasn't inherently positive either. But the point is, your daemon, according to ancient knowledge, was what made you, you. In other words, your daemon was at the very core of your personality. It was the secret of why you are the way you are. And again, this can be negative or positive. It was believed that people could have a good or an evil daemon. But the point is, the daemon is you. It's your most authentic self. Your true personality when you strip away all the conditioning of how you were raised or different things that happened to you. There is a core essential essence of who you are, which preceded all those things and which ultimately none of those things can ever really change. And this is what ancient philosophers like Plato, Plotinus, Empedocles called the daemon. It is your true personality. It is what we might call your essence. Now, what does that have to do with charisma and becoming a cult leader, quote unquote? Well, this is where things get really interesting. What I found in 10 years of studying this stuff is that all charisma, all personal magnetism, it comes from the daemon. It doesn't come from you. And when I say you, I mean it doesn't come from your ego. It doesn't come from your conscious mind, your conscious personality. It doesn't come from the you, which you think about when you usually use the words I or myself, or when you say, my name is Joe Smith, I live here, I do XYZ job. That's not where charisma comes from, because that's ultimately a construct. Charisma and personal magnetism and all creativity, all gifts, all talents, they come from the daemon. They come from the demonic. And I don't mean demons from hell with claws and hooves or whatever. I mean your daemon, the daemon that is you at the most essential level, your true personality, your true individuality. And there's a few things to understand about that before we go on. You might object here, well, if you're just talking about your true personality, your true nature, why not just say that? Why use this term for it, the daemon? It's kind of freaky, right? Like it's kind of scary. The reason why I've come to prefer this term over any other is because there is something alien about this thing. It's not you. I mean, it is you on the most deep level, but you have to actually regard this thing like it is something external. That's the paradox. And the reason why is you can't get this thing confused with your ego. It is not your ego. It is not the you that is conscious of watching this video right now. The daemon is in you. Jung called it the God self, the God within, the archetypal self. The daemon, yourself with a big S, it's not you, but it's in you. It's deep down there, deep inside. And it is actually looking out through your eyes right now. But the whole point is that you, the ego, the conscious personality, are not aware of it. Now, the goal is not exactly to merge with this thing. Rather, it's to let it come to the surface, to become more and more conscious of it. And eventually, you can let it sort of inhabit your body. And at that point, your conscious mind, your body, your ego, become more like a vessel or a vehicle which it can use to act on the world. And at that point, you will find that you have powers which you do not normally have. When you are in a good relationship with the personal daemon to the point where you can allow it to inhabit your body when it's appropriate, that alone gives you powers, possibilities, energy, charisma, magnetism, as well as many other gifts that are simply not accessible when you're being entirely run by the ego and by your conscious mind. This is where all art comes from, all creativity, all music. This is where inventions come from, discoveries. They come from a flash of insight all at once. They come from the genius. And genius was the word the Romans used to describe this exact same entity. What the Greeks referred to as the daemon, the Romans called the genius. And that's where we get the word genius from. And it's funny, you'll have certain people who might say, well, I don't want to get involved with the demonic. It sounds dangerous, and that's fine. That's actually a completely coherent and sound position. But, you better stop listening to music in that case. You better stop watching movies or reading books, because I got news for you. None of that is created by men. It's created by demons, by spirits. It's created, so long as it's any good, by the personal daemon of the man or woman who made it. And if you've ever created anything, if you've ever written a book or composed a piece of music or done anything in any way creative, you'll know for a fact not an opinion, a fact. It doesn't come from you. You simply transcribe stuff that is put into your mouth by the demon, by the gods, so to speak. People tell me I'm a good writer, but I don't write anything. I don't create anything, ever. I'm a glorified fucking secretary. I'm a typist. All I do is transcribe. I listen to the voice and I type what it's saying, and that's it. I don't create anything, ever. It's already there, fully formed, being whispered into my ear. And that's how everything is created. If you think it's any different, you are delusional. So I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I just wanted to make that point that, if you take this very puritanical stance that there should be no traffic or commerce between our world and the spiritual world at all, that's fine. But you're going to have to stop consuming art of any kind. You're going to have to stop watching films and listening to music, which some hardcore religious people actually do. They do take that approach. Music was banned in Iran after the revolution. It was made illegal after Ayatollah Khomeini took power. And Ayatollah Khomeini was not a stupid guy. He was actually a great mystic. And he would agree with everything I'm saying here. He would tell you, yes, all music comes from the jinn, from demons, and therefore we ban it. And that's actually an internally coherent position. But anyway, getting back to this core idea of charisma and how to have so much personal magnetism, you could literally start your own cult. The first key to this, as I said, is that you've got to awaken this demon, what Jung called the self or the God within, what I've started to call the super personality. So you've got your normal personality, but then deep down in the unconscious, buried beneath it, you've got this completely different, alien, separate personality, which I call the super personality or the supernatural personality, which is this demon I'm talking about and which you can read about more in Plato, Empedocles, etc. It's been in you since you were born. It is immortal. It's probably had other human bodies before it had yours, before you were born, and it will probably have other human bodies long after you're dead. This is what we call the supernatural personality, the super personality, the demon. And when you are inhabited by this thing, you are bulletproof. This is it. This is the key. This is the answer to everything else as far as charisma, magnetism, attracting women goes. When you're inhabited by this thing, you will have so much charisma that when you walk into a room, it's like, vroom. Suddenly, everyone's looking at you. You're the center of attention. Girls want to fuck you. Guys want to be you. You're luminous. You're fucking radiant. You're radiating pure energy and oozing charisma and sex appeal. And this is how you can seduce almost any woman you want. It's how you can become extremely funny, charismatic, dominant, bold, can have any personal qualities you desire. When you learn to activate the super personality, you become a different person, a better person, a super version of you. But the whole key to this is that it's not actually that you're becoming a different person. When you're channeling this thing, you are more you than ever before. For the first time ever, you actually become yourself, your real self. Not who society made you into, not who conditioning and upbringing and things that happened to you made you into, but who you actually are at the most core, essential, irreducible level of your own peculiar individuality, your own true nature. And again, this can be good or bad. The reason demons get a bad rep, it's not entirely undeserved. It's because some people do have a personal demon that is actually kind of a scoundrel. Now, that's not true of everyone. It might not be true of you. Maybe your demon actually is extremely friendly and benevolent, like a Buddha or something. But there are people who have a demon that is a bit of a scoundrel. And my whole point is, though, morality aside and ethics aside, from the point of view of attracting women and being charismatic to people, you can only get this from being yourself, being fully yourself. In other words, by fully integrating and being able to access your demon, whatever the nature of that demon is. Good or bad, what makes you magnetic to people is when you are you. But the problem is, most people are not in touch with this at all. They are not in touch with who they truly are. They actually have no idea how to quote unquote be themselves because they have no clue who their real self actually is. And that's why most people are not magnetic. That's why most guys have the personality of a cardboard box. That's why women reject most guys. It's because there's fucking nothing there. You have no personality. You have no demon. Or to be more precise, the demon is buried so far down there and is so deeply suppressed in the unconscious that it may as well not exist. And so at that point, you're basically like a machine. You're like a toaster or something. You have no soul. There's no essence. So being magnetic comes from having a personality. It comes from accessing your true personality. Personality cannot be learned in a book. It can't be learned by watching YouTube videos. It can only come from within, from going into your true individuality, from learning and going into and reinforcing who you really are. So, how do you begin to awaken this? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you just one secret The one and only secret you will ever need to know to become who you truly are, to access your super personality, and to therefore access the god-like powers and charisma that come with that, and which allow you to seduce any woman, to get all the sex you want, and to bend reality to your will.
Here we have some answers, no more secrets. The source of all creation, good and evil, and the source of all, now, funny enough, the source of all is you. I have unlocked and discovered a secret to living in these bodies that we hold. And oh yes, it's very, 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 very serious. The secret is laughter.
The secret is laughter. That is the essence of how you unlock the magnetic personality. It's the essence of how you can be more attractive to women in any environment than a literal celebrity or a billionaire. The secret is laughter, because laughter alone is what puts your conscious mind in contact with the demon. It is the key, the secret link, the hidden bridge that gives you, the conscious mind, the ego, access to the super personality, to the supernatural powers that lie dormant within you. But here's the rub. I'm not talking about making girls laugh. I'm not talking about being a comedian or jester. I'm talking about making yourself laugh. That's the key to magnetism and to godlike powers over social environments. It comes from self-amusement. Being able to make yourself laugh. Being able to self-generate positive emotions from within yourself on command. That's actually the secret to cult-level leader charisma and magnetism and even mind control. It's all about self-amusement, which seems kind of weird, right? Like those two things don't seem to really fit together. So bear with me here as I explain this. And I'm going to be talking about this and using the example of how this applies in cold approach pickup, that is in approaching women who are strangers in a bar, a nightclub, or on the street and making them so attracted to you that they want to go home and have sex with you right away. This is something I do quite often. You know, you can see some girls I've picked up before on screen now. But even if you don't do cold approach like I do, and even if you don't want to do cold approach ever, that's perfectly fine. Everything I'm going to say here about self-amusement applies just as much in every other domain, in every other way of meeting women there is. Except for online dating, which sucks. But in any situation in which you are face to face with a woman in real life, what I'm going to say will give you a very, very good chance of making her so attracted to you that she will willingly strip naked and tell you, do whatever you want to me. Okay, so self-amusement, which is the key to that. What is that? Why is it the key to magnetic personality and even to accessing the demon or the so-called super personality? First off, this is not my original concept or my discovery. It was first discovered by a faction of pickup artists who used to call themselves Real Social Dynamics. And basically, back in the early 2000s, these guys would go out every night, approach women, try to get laid, and they would test different things like mad scientists to see what worked and what didn't. And long story short, their single most important discovery and their greatest contribution, in my opinion, to human knowledge and to social sciences can be summarized in 2 points. Number one, if you can make a girl laugh, you can make her do anything. In other words, the easiest way to get laid is by being funny. And that's kind of obvious, but it's not that helpful because being funny on command is hard, particularly when you're under a lot of pressure, like when you're approaching a stranger at a bar. But the second thing these pickup artists discovered after thousands of interactions, thousands of approaches, was very fucking interesting. What they found after all this trial and error was that the way to make girls laugh, the cheat code to it, the thing that pulls it all together, is to make yourself laugh. In other words, if you try to make her laugh, it usually won't work. But if you focus entirely on learning to make yourself laugh, then the girl will laugh as well, and then you'll very often get laid. That's self-amusement in a nutshell. It's not about impressing the girl. It's not about entertaining the girl or making her laugh like you're some kind of jester. It's about making yourself laugh, doing things that amuse and entertain you. And when you can do that, everything else works. It's like magic. You become irresistible to the woman you're talking to. And the way they explained this in RSD was with a certain formula, a maxim, which they call the law of state transference. And it basically means whatever you feel, she feels. In psychology, they call this emotional contagion, but these pickup artists, they really got this down to a science, an applied science, because when you understand self-amusement and the law of state transference, when you know how to make yourself laugh and feel good, and by extension, how to make the girl laugh and feel good, because whatever you feel, she feels, you basically cannot be rejected. You're bulletproof. And you become so charismatic that every girl in that place will be trying to fuck you. Again, it all comes down to self-amusement. It comes down to making yourself laugh, making yourself feel good, and being able to do that on command, as if by pushing a button. They call this the process of getting in the zone, or getting into state, by which they meant a social flow state. What it actually is, however, in my opinion, is the demonic. It is the superpersonality, the personal demon coming to the surface. That's what self-amusement is really about. That's what getting into the zone actually is. This is actually a supernatural state. And going out and approaching a bunch of women is actually a magical ritual, which is done, consciously or not, in order to access this supernatural state and this supernatural entity. I know we've covered a lot of ground here. There's a lot of weird concepts to get your head around. However, we can really simplify all this. We can summarize it in just one word, and that word, again, is laughter. Laughter is the key to all this. Laughter is the secret. Specifically, it's the ability to make yourself laugh, or what the POA is called self-amusement or state, or getting in the zone. Now, why is it that laughter, genuine laughter, awakens the demon? Why is it that only laughter and nothing else can truly awaken the superpersonality? It's because laughter destroys the ego. That's the secret to all this. Because it's only when the ego dies, or is at least temporarily killed, that the superpersonality, the demon, can come to the surface. And when the demon's in charge, when the demon is acting through your body, looking out through your eyes, speaking through your mouth, then and only then will you become fully magnetic to people. So, how do you do this? How do you actually become self-amused? Well, here's where this gets strange. Stranger. The only way you can actually learn self-amusement is to go inward, not outward. Fundamentally, this is about self-knowledge, not knowledge of other people, not knowledge of comedy or being funny or knowing how to make people laugh. You have to know what makes you laugh specifically. And that's all you've got to know. You don't have to know how to make anyone else laugh but you. Because again, if you laugh, they'll laugh. Whatever you feel, she feels. You don't have to manipulate anyone else. Actually, you can't manipulate anyone else. The only person you've got to learn to manipulate, and the only person that you can manipulate, is you. So, if you want cult leader level mind control powers and charisma, the only way you're going to get that is to become an expert in what makes you laugh. And I call this the gold that is within you. Now, the gold within, in the context of getting girls, attracting women, is the knowledge of what makes you genuinely laugh, what makes you amused. And when you have that knowledge, and when it's at your fingertips, you now have the ability to push your own buttons and make yourself laugh on command. So the first way to do this, very practical, is right now, open up your phone, create a note, and title it something like self-amusement list or things that made me laugh. And what you want to do is, when you're going about your day, every time something makes you laugh out loud, write it down in this list. I don't care what it was. Could be something you saw on TV, a meme you saw, joke you heard someone say. Could even be a thought that just popped into your own head. But if anything made you spontaneously, genuinely laugh out loud or even chuckle, write it down. Keep a record of it. So right away, this exercise is going to do two things for you. First of all, obviously by doing this, over time, you're going to gradually build a list of things that made you laugh. And then from there, you can go in and look at the patterns and the commonalities. And you can begin to figure out what kind of humor, what kind of themes, what kind of plot lines or narratives tend to make you laugh. But even beyond that, just doing this exercise will actually make you more conscious of laughter itself, which if you're like I was, you probably haven't been up till now. As guys, a lot of us, most of us actually, we're very, very alienated from our own sense of humor. We do have a sense of humor. We do laugh sometimes. If you're not ever laughing, you're probably suicidally depressed. But we're not really conscious of it when it happens. And if I was to ask you right now, what makes you laugh? Name 3 things. Go. You probably wouldn't be able to do it. Almost no one can, because most people are not actually conscious of this side of themselves at all. And if you're not conscious of something, you can have no control over it. But what we want here is control. We want to make ourselves laugh at will whenever we want to. Because, and this is where it gets important here, if you suddenly see that stunning girl with a bubble butt, if you can generate the state of self-amusement, bam, like that right away when you need it, you can get that girl. Period. You can fuck her. Understand? That's really what this comes down to. But again, the problem is you will not be able to develop this power until you have some awareness of what actually makes you laugh. And so step 1 is to start keeping a file on this. Every time something makes you laugh out loud or chuckle, write it down. And be fucking committed to this. Don't be a dabbler, okay? You know, when I started doing this, I began keeping a list of everything that made me laugh. I got really in touch with my own sense of humor, and I actually started getting laid a lot. But what happened then was, as I was getting laid, I forgot about keeping a list. I forgot to keep writing down the stuff that was making me laugh throughout the day. And then, one day, went out to the club and I realized I couldn't approach. I wasn't having a good time. I wasn't enjoying myself. I was actually feeling extremely uncomfortable and out of place. And when I then tried to be self-amused, like what had worked for me in the past, I suddenly realized, oh, I don't remember how. So take this seriously. You know, you hear this advice like, oh, keep this little list of stuff that made you laugh. And you might think, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting, and then forget about it and move on to the next shiny object. But this directly gets you laid, okay? So don't be a dabbler with this. Make this list right now on your phone and take it seriously. You know, in your mind, the next time you see a fucking hot ass Instagram model with huge oiled up butt cheeks like 2 watermelons, that needs to be connected in your mind with this list, okay? This list is how you fuck that model. Do you understand? This is the most serious thing in the world. This is not some little piece of social skills advice like you hear one time and then forget about. This is the key to fucking everything. Getting in touch with your own sense of humor, being able to make yourself laugh on command like a fucking robot, like a freak of nature. This is how you bang the hottest women on the planet. Really. It's all about this. There's nothing else other than this and mastering this. So take it seriously. Funny as that is to say, right? Take humor seriously. Take not being serious seriously. And yet it's true. Okay, so that's step 1, is to keep a list of the stuff that made you laugh or chuckle. Now, looking over that list later on, you might find that a lot of this stuff doesn't make you laugh again. You know, it was funny in that moment, but it's not necessarily as funny to you anymore. That's fine. That's to be expected. But the purpose of this is just to start getting more in touch with your own sense of humor. And you do this by starting to find the commonalities and the patterns in what made you laugh. For some guys, it might be dark humor. It might be something like humor that challenges taboos of some kind, like racial humor or kind of provocative, edgy humor. Or on the other hand, it might be something totally different. You know, it might be like surreal humor or absurdist humor. By the way, if you find it hard to keep this list because you find that almost nothing makes you laugh, start changing that. You know, that's actually a big problem. If you want women, if you want to be charismatic, you need to start developing a fucking sense of humor. So make an active effort to do this. Start watching comedy movies. Start watching funny stuff online. You know, find comedians you find funny. Well, actually these days comedians mostly suck, but there are a few good ones. Personally, as of now, I'm more into various kinds of internet trolls. Guys like Matan Evan, Red Bar, or Sam Hyde. Those are 3 guys making content online right now that are very fucking funny. I recommend you check them all out. Guys like Red Bar or Sam Hyde are kind of an acquired taste, but once you start to get their personalities, they're fucking hilarious. And another guy everyone should check out right now is Matan Evan. You know, and the reason why, specifically in terms of approaching women, attracting women, is that what Matan does is actually very similar to how I act when I'm talking to girls I'm approaching. You know, basically this guy's a troll. He's deliberately but very slyly mocking the guests for his own amusement. And I'm not necessarily saying you need to troll girls you approach or be unpleasant to them, but watching a guy like Matan interview various celebrities is actually a very good example of how self-amusement is supposed to look. You know, because is he trying to impress the celebrities? No. Is he trying to make them like him? No. He's purely trying to amuse himself, and he usually does that by kind of slyly mocking them and undermining them, but in a very subtle way.
If you were responsible for the cost of your specials in relation to how much money they generated, how much would you be in debt?
If I was responsible to the, okay, I think all my special, I don't know the answer.
You think you would be, how much in the hole would you be?
I don't think that's really how specials work unless you put them on YouTube. And I don't really, you're the YouTube
Have
guy.
you not made any money from your specials? I don't understand.
No, they pay you up front in a special.
The money comes from like Netflix and those guys,
Yeah.
they're the ones paying for the budget. So
Yeah.
the question is like relative. If you were the one paying for the budget and you were making all of the profits, it wasn't an upfront cost, how much money would you have lost?
unfortunately haven't lost money on specials.
You've made money. Well, but that's because you're getting paid. How much money have the companies lost?
So study Matan, watch him. He's hilarious, and his interviews will actually give you a very good example of how this dynamic of self-amusement that I'm talking about actually looks. You approach the girl and you're not trying to impress her, you're purely trying to make yourself laugh. It's like you're enjoying an inside joke with yourself. And this can even take the form of kind of like subtly mocking her or deliberately confusing her. So long as it makes you laugh, by the law of state transference, it will make her laugh. And that's how you get attraction. That's how you get laid. Now, step 2 of getting cult leader charisma is where the rubber really hits the road here. And this is something that many of you are not going to want to hear. And that's fine. But if you're serious about getting results and having a lot of sex with beautiful women, you will. And this is that you need to go out and start approaching women. Duh, right, kind of obvious. However, the way I want you to do this is very, very different from anything you've ever done before or from how any other guy does this. And this is, like I mentioned, I want you to start going out to environments where there's a lot of hot girls there you find attractive. It could be bars, nightclubs, restaurants, shopping malls, whatever it is, and approach women there. But do so with the fundamental goal not of making them like you, not of getting a date, not of getting a phone number, only with the goal of making yourself laugh during the approach. Understand? So you're approaching girls, but you're not primarily trying to pick them up. Now, you're not opposed to that if it happens, but your main purpose for approaching here is not to get any kind of external result whatsoever. It's purely to make yourself laugh. Now, if you know anything about cold approach, if you've ever pulled a girl from cold approach, you'll know that if you are able to approach a few girls and start making yourself laugh, that is how you'll wind up picking a girl up. But again, I don't want you to focus on that for now. I want you, homework assignment, Project Mayhem here, to go out, approach girls purely in order to find out what you can say and do in that interaction that makes you genuinely laugh. The goal here is to find out and learn what puts you individually in the zone and what is the zone like when you're there. What does it feel like? Start getting a sense of these things. Start getting a taste for it. For example, for me, if I approach a girl and I'm rejected by her, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen sometimes, that always puts me in the zone. Inevitably. Now, it wasn't like that when I started doing this, but over time it's become like that now. When I get embarrassed, when I look foolish in front of people, that kills my ego, and then boom, I start laughing. I'm in the zone right away. And from there, I'm bulletproof. And so, the pickup artist used to say, rejections actually put you in the zone. Rejections pump your state. And you'll find when you do this, stuff kind of flows out of you. Little things you say, plot lines you make up on the spot, and you don't know where they come from, but they'll make you crack up laughing. For example, one of the little plot lines that I always find funny is telling people I just got out of court that day. I'm often wearing a suit. They're like, well, why are you dressed in a suit? I'm like, oh, I just got out of court. And the girls are like, well, what were you in court for? And I was like, I was on trial. They're like, well, why? I just go, murder.
Hello? It's Job. I'm looking for Jessie.
Well, she just left, Job. What's wrong?
I need her to spin something for me.
Well, that's too bad because I think she quit.
What do you need her to spin?
Murder.
Another one I talked about in previous videos is telling girls I'm a serial killer, introducing myself as Ted Bundy or Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. For whatever reason, I find that plot line very, very amusing, kind of always gets me laughing.
The whole back row was occupied by goth girls, all clad in signature black and silver. Ramirez was showered with love letters. Many of them included intimate photos.
Didn't get a fair trial.
And Cindy, you care for this man?
Yes, I do.
I don't know.
Maybe I should tell you some of the things he told me about you.
He actually sexually assaulted her, and she said he was quite a handsome young man. Very nice looking ladies. As he's walking on the way out, the one on the aisle side looked at him, he smiled, and she opened up her legs. She did that and blew him a kiss, and I'm saying, holy Jesus.
I also like absurdist humor, surreal humor. I actually like self-denigrating humor a lot. I play around a lot with making fun of myself when I'm talking to girls. And that's one a lot of people have mixed opinions about. They say you should never make fun of yourself as a guy when you're talking to women. And that's definitely true if you're kind of low value, like if you're kind of awkward or weird or badly dressed, then yeah, probably don't mess around with self-denigrating humor yet. The reason I do like it though, at least for me, is because I can come across kind of very well put together and almost intimidating. Like if I'm in a bar or club, I'm literally the best dressed person there. I'm wearing a tailored suit jacket, linen shirt, handmade leather loafers from Spain. I clearly look like I'm a guy who has his shit together. But the downside of that is that it can come across as a little bit almost kind of snobby to people, or like I think that I'm better than them. And so self-denigrating humor, making fun of myself in kind of a subtle way is actually a really, really good way to solve that problem and disarm people. While at the same time, it also makes me laugh a lot because again, anything that removes your ego will tend to make you laugh. So, example of this from the other night, this wasn't an approach that went anywhere or led to anything. It wasn't even a girl I found that attractive, but it was just a warm-up approach that I was doing as soon as I got to the club. And so I go up to this girl, everyone there is dancing, they're wild, they're partying, they're spilling drinks, they're knocking into each other. And so I go up to this girl and I basically just start honestly expressing exactly what I was feeling in that moment. I said to her, I hate fun, I hate dancing, I just want to stand here in my suit and look serious and aura farm like this. Where can I go to do that? There's too much moving around here. People need to stand still and let me examine them. And the girl was some Russian chick, like Eastern European gold digger type girl. She's looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, she's just completely bewildered. Her face is totally blank. But I find this so fucking funny that like for the entire rest of the night, I'm just completely in the zone. I'm laughing my ass off. I've got a huge grin on my face. I'm fully self-amused, fully in the flow. But those are just some examples of the gold that I'm talking about. And it's going to be different, obviously, for you than it is for me. That's the whole point. The whole essence of this is that you have to do a lot of experimenting with this to find out what makes you laugh. That line about like people need to stand still and let me examine them. I have no idea where that came from. I've never had that thought in my life. It was completely spontaneous. It just came directly out of my mouth when I was in front of the girl. And it instantly made me start laughing my ass off. Like, where did that come from? Who said that? And this is the demon. This is the genius, as the Romans called it. There is something in you that is more than you. And that's where charisma and humor come from. So what you want to do now, having done this, having gone out, approached a bunch of girls, immediately afterwards, open up that list you made of things that made you laugh, and now write down the top 3 things you did or said that night that made you laugh the most. And this is where the magic happens, because this is how you find the gold, the real gold. Not just what other people did or said throughout your day that made you laugh, but what did you say on a night out, actually talking to girls, that made you laugh in those interactions. Now, if you do that as a habit, if you go out regularly, you approach women, and then you also start taking notes every time of the top 3 things you did that made you laugh that night, you are going to be in touch with the demon. You are going to become more and more inhabited by your own genius. And you and this super personality will gradually begin to merge until there is no longer a separation. You are him and he is you. And you now have his powers, his abilities, his charisma, his insane levels of personal magnetism, courage, boldness, whenever you need them. Now, I talk more about how to access your magnetic powers of attraction in my book, The Ultimate Guide to Making Women Approach You. You can have that for free right now, totally yours, no catch. Just click the link in the pinned comment below, and then you'll be taken to my website where you can download that book for free. This book will teach you 5 secrets I've discovered for making women approach you, no matter what you look like or how much money you make. You're going to discover esoteric secrets of developing a personal energy field that literally makes women come to you and chase you. Since discovering these and putting them down in this book, I now get approached by typically around 2 to 5 girls every single night. Many of them hot girls, many of them hot enough that honestly, a lot of you guys would literally jerk off to them. No one else is teaching this, as far as I know. I don't know of a single pickup artist or dating coach guy that knows how to make women approach him. And yet I found this is actually pretty easy to do if you understand these ancient secrets of cultivating the personal energy field, which I talk about in this book. So click the link in the pinned comment below right now to download this free book while I'm still giving it away for free. Again, when you click that link, you'll be taken to my website. Then you just have to put in your email address and I'll send you the book right away. Now, why do I want your email address? Because I have a daily newsletter where I write about all these things every single day, new free content, a new article every day or most days. And when you get this free book, you'll also automatically be signed up to my free email newsletter, which is actually the heart of what I'm doing online right now. These videos on YouTube are really just a way of getting people to sign up for the email newsletter. They're just the tip of the iceberg here. But the email newsletter is the core, the beating heart of where I'm putting out my best stuff, my most hardcore uncensored stuff, my most esoteric advanced ideas about dating, masculinity, game, personal magnetism, the occult, the supernatural. And anyone around here who's been on my newsletter for a while can vouch that it's good. This is not bullshit. People love the newsletters. So make sure to do that now. Sign up and get your free book, How to Make Women Approach You, right now. Get this while I'm still giving it away for free and sign up to my newsletter. Just click the link in the pinned comment below to get started, and I'll see you on the other side.